Hey, Pastor Tim here, coming back with our final session of the nine-part series based on the book Building a Disciple Making Ministry, which I gave to our life group leaders about a month ago. And just wanted to have a video way of a response of what I got out of the material and hopefully inspire you to read the material. This book was inspired by the life of Arthur Flake, who helped establish our Sunday school ministry 100 years ago, following another pandemic, a Spanish flu, and following World War I. Today's article summarizes Flake's legacy. And I just want to say, imagine what life was like 100 years ago. Trying to imagine our lives and times today. We were just coming out of World War I, a Spanish flu pandemic. There was no Camp Hood. Colleen was just a tiny outskirt here in this community, and First Baptist was approaching its 50th anniversary in 1923. And just as we look at what we're trying to imagine, what God has in store for us, I want this chapter, I want you to read it and just imagine what we could be doing to prepare for maybe 100 years from now, should the Lord tarry, for us to have a legacy built for them. Our church does have a visionary plan. Whenever our building was built 12 years ago, there was a phase 2, there was a phase 3, even a phase 4 that we have. And our church land was once a pasture land owned by Troy and Juanita Fawcett. The grassy area to the south of the building and the wildflower land behind it has been envisioned to be developed someday. There's a new building committee that's meeting and is trying to get us ready for phase 2. Even our worship center, it's designed to where those walls can be knocked out, those classrooms could be reclaimed for worship center places, and we could seat up to 1,000 people. And that's phase 1, or step 1 of Flake's formula of imagine the possibilities. What's the possibilities of our city and community that is topping out nearly 200,000 people? Surely we can reach 0.5% of those with 1,000 people in our church. Killeen, by the way, has doubled in its population just in the 21 years since Randy's been here. We've come a long way, but we need to keep reaching out to the uttermost parts of the earth. Chapter 9, Bob Mayfield writes that churches that refuse, in fact, this is a good quote from Bob Mayfield, churches that refuse to equip their leaders are likely to decline. That's what I've been challenging you, I hope, in all of this material, is that if we have a vision, if we have a desire to build buildings, and if we want to provide space, if we're not building leaders, and especially you, adult leaders in life groups, our church is going to fail. It's going to eventually cease to exist if we do not equip the saints for the work of the ministry. Every ministry of our church must be about disciple making. Mayfield asked the question, who is going to set the course for others for the next 100 years? And that answer to that question must be simply this: you. If you go to my blog, timothymccowan.blogspot.com, you can read more about this series and ways that we need to be reaching people with more space and more growth to reach more possibilities. But it really begins with you. You must begin with God. And one of the things that it says on page 99 is to nurture your soul. Start nurturing your soul with a daily quiet time. Don't look at your position as a life group leader as simply to teach a good lesson. But no, it has to begin from nurturing your soul. And then you need to be looking not at the entire class, but just look at one person and say, I need to develop a leader. It may not be a life group leader. It may be a future deacon, maybe a future children's worker or youth worker. It may be a future evangelist, people going out on evangelism and winning people to the Lord. and maybe serving on a committee. Maybe there's one person in your class that wants to grow. Now, I hope people learn from my successes. But to be honest, I myself, I learn more from my failures than I ever do from my successes. And one failure I had was about a month ago. I led two young ladies to the Lord. They prayed the prayer, they promised to come to church, and I'm praying for them daily. But so far, they haven't come to church. I feel like, in some way, that's a failure, maybe a failure on my part, to adequately prepare them and encourage them to come. But I've given their name over to other people, and we need to say, okay, if they never come, should that discourage us to the point to where we never try again, we never lead people to the Lord? No way. We need to keep trying, keep witnessing, keep making disciples, and never stop. If I don't stop, then you shouldn't stop. But in order to not give up, we first have to start. We need more leaders in our church. And that responsibility for preschool, children, or youth, or even adult falls on me, the adult life group leader, the education minister of our church. And I want to convey to you as teachers, whether it's Ann Ferris, Dan Jackson, Barbara Little, any of these people that are people, Jess Diem, Bill Wolfter, you as leaders of life groups are to teach a biblically based lesson. But we have to be building leaders. And we have more leaders in our church than I can shake a stick at. We have enough people sitting in our classes, in our life group classes, let alone people who are sitting in the church who are not even in a life group, who should be leading out and helping in our disciple-making ministry. And they all have excuses, and that might make sense to them. And to be honest with you, it makes sense to me as well. I can give you excuses for why they shouldn't be involved in church. Maybe they're too busy. Maybe they have too many children that they are needing to take care of. Maybe they have too many commitments at their job. But for every person who can make an excuse, I look at you as life group teachers. You have excuses on why you shouldn't be teaching, and yet you are. You who are leaders in the class, maybe not in a teaching role, but you're helping out your class. I want to say you have an excuse for not taking the time, but you are doing it. Because one of the things that even though people have excuses that make sense, it won't make sense to God. On the day of judgment, we can bring all of our excuses to the Lord of why we don't make disciples. But for every excuse we bring, God's going to give us an example. I saw a quote the other day that the church in Afghanistan is meeting and are preparing to die. The church in America is meeting as long as we have adequate air conditioning, as long as we have comfortable pews, as long as we have a good program, a good music program, a good ministering to us, a serve us mentality rather than a service mentality. For every excuse we bring to God, He's going to show us an example of someone else who had a better excuse, but they didn't stop being an example. We need to not let our excuses to stop us from being soul winners. And after we win souls, to be a disciple maker. And after we be a disciple maker, we be an encourager of them to make disciples. The future is waiting, but it's not for long. Every day the future becomes the past. And we need to join the historic trailblazers like Arthur Flake, who was born and raised in Belton, Texas. But we need to be like others, like Pastor Bacon, whose great-great-grandson, R.J. Bacon, is now helping Angela, his wife, be a leader of our young adult ministry. We need to be like Troy and Juanita Fawcett, who in her latter years would still taught her ladies faithfully in our class. We need to be raising up that future generation that's going to long outlive you and me. The future is coming, and it's by tomorrow already here. So let's carry on and prepare for the future. This is the last series. I started in this very same spot wearing a t-shirt, so I thought in homage to that, I'm going to just go ahead and finish out the lesson. on this. I hope you were inspired by this book. I'm going to try to do this a little bit more, simply because whenever we have teacher sessions, um, it may be one way that we can train our future teachers, bringing them. But this right here, this medium of being able to look on a video and just hear my heart, hear my vision, hear my simplicity, my casualness, and say, wow, we can have a vision for the future. We can be equipped, and not only equipped, but bring somebody else alongside of us and equip them. The future really looks bleak whenever we look at the earth, but whenever we look at the heavens, it looks bright and eternal. And so we need to be preparing, and especially as the Bible says, all the more as you see that day drawing near, we need to be encouraging one another to come together at First Baptist Church of Killeen and prepare for what God has for us. God bless you, and thanks for watching. If you missed some of the sessions or you didn't read all of the chapters, go back and read it. Watch some of these videos. Read the blog, and you can be able to see pretty much a text of everything that I'm saying to you, a transcript, and then just be inspired yourself. Come up with new ideas that maybe spark into your head after reading this and saying how we can do the work of the ministry. God bless you, and thank you so much for watching.